Please get some photos and then
I'm trying to.
You've ruined my introduction now, but anyway, we'll get on with it. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Louder. Is that better? Sorry. So thanks for your patience, everybody. Thanks so much for coming today. What an amazing exhibition for this man, Boy George, everybody. So normally it would be our MD, an illustrious leader as he calls himself, Ian Weatherby Blythe. That's you. Doing the introductions, but you have me tonight, so he's not very well. But yeah, so basically, what more can I say about this man than you don't already know? Creative, DJ, artist, and much more, actor. So you're on Broadway soon, and last night you were doing your show here in Manchester.
Yeah, we played last night. Last night was a very good night, really enjoyed it. It was a good crowd. You know, we've been on the road for about a week, so it's quite... Last night was like a calm gig, but it was fun, really fun.
I think some of you were there.
I wasn't calm. No.
Amazing. So firstly, like I said, thank you so much for coming out. This exhibition looks amazing. So we've had two amazing exhibitions down in Birmingham and in London, and I think you'll agree, stunning artwork. So we really want to talk about them in more detail. So firstly, in terms of your creative practice, where did it all start?
Probably in the womb, but I think just growing up, you know, I was always drawn to exotic things, you know, whether it was my mum's jewellery, her very limited supply of makeup, there wasn't a lot to play around with. But yeah, I noticed when I was quite young that I liked to create things, whether it be on myself or winning friends, you know. I had lots of girlfriends that allowed me to paint them and stuff. And over the years, you know, I've always done art, usually like record sleeves, my own clothes, things like that. And then I started to kind of, and obviously at school I did art and I was pretty successful at that. It was the only thing I was good at school, really. The only thing I got any compliments for, that's for sure. And then, you know, in the last kind of 20 years, 15 years, I started to kind of make art, to start with just to put in my own house. You know, I started doing it for myself, and then it kind of, started to get attention, and I've ended up doing this amazing deal with you guys and taking it to the next level. Yeah.
And you talk about fashion as well. Obviously, you adorn your clothes with your designs as well. And the original works we can see here today have got is a mix of sort of the fashion and the sort of art. So where does that come from?
Well, I think there's a real simplicity in so many creative things. You know, whether it's songwriting or making art. At least the way I do it is very simple. I'm influenced by almost everything I see, you know, people mainly because I draw faces, and I'm always trying to capture the sort of the stink of a person rather than creating something that looks exactly like, you know, because obviously you look at the Bowie one, obviously it looks like Tintin, but it's definitely Bowie because of the iconic outfit, which, you know, being someone that sees the importance of personal style. So I draw people that I find exciting, humorous, bold, people with attitude like Madonna, Naomi Campbell, but you know, also just a lot of characters that I make up, you know, based on people I know. You know, there are times when I paint things and then as I'm doing it, I'll sort of start going, oh, it looks a bit like Barbra Streisand. And then I might twist it to look more like Barbra Streisand. But a lot of the time it is just about creating something that stimulates me, and then it can often turn into another person. And once you've convinced yourself a picture is of somebody, it's quite easy to convince other people too.
And you talk about the framing and the sort of adornments you put on the piece as the finishing touch, as the makeup before you go out. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Well, obviously, when I was a kid, I've always said I have a great face of makeup because I've worn a lot of makeup in my life. I've got a lot of space on my face. People love painting my face because you can put a lot on it. And plus, I'm not shy about wearing makeup. I'm never trying to look natural. So most makeup artists say, I'd love to do your face, because they know they can really go to town. And I think the paintings are a little bit like that process for me. You start with a really plain face, and you add this and add that, put on a hat, you know, a jacket, whatever, and suddenly you become you. And in my life, you know, one of the things I love is that, you know, if I'm not dressed up, I can walk around pretty much anywhere. And I don't really get that much attention, so I can go on the tube and the bus, and I get to observe things in a way that, say, someone like Elton John probably can't go on the tube, probably wouldn't even think of it. But I just love that freedom of being out in the world. You know, I don't have a wine cellar, but I have an art studio, and I like to spend time. I love to create. I think the Japanese have a word, ikigu, which is something that gets you out of bed, you know, something that makes you excited and happy. And obviously the process of creating it is a lot of fun, but when you see it framed and the care that these guys take to frame them, you know, sometimes can make the painting even better. You know, so that's such an interesting process. It's a bit like you make a record and it gets played on the radio, and suddenly it's like a proper record because it's been on the radio, you know. And I think when you put a frame around a piece of art, it contextualizes it in the same way adding a label to something you've created makes it real. So there's a lot of things that go into the way it's presented, lighting, you know, sometimes when I do something, my studio is quite dull, so I have to take it somewhere to be convinced, you know, with good lighting to see whether it's going to work or not. But yeah, I just really love doing it, and I get almost a bit embarrassingly exciting when I see it on the wall. I'm like, wow, it's so good.
That's because it is that good. Yeah, so your debut collection in the UK of the print collection, we can see too, obviously behind us here. Can you talk to us more about, we've called that Fame. The obviously 4 people here that one of them yourself.
Well, obviously myself, I've had an interesting life with fame. Most of my life I've been famous. And then you got someone like Bowie, who was the reason I wanted to be famous, or certainly was the person that encouraged me to be myself. Then you got Madonna, who was my contemporary, and we're quite similar because we don't stop working. I mean, she's always working, I'm always working. One thing stops, I start another thing, because I really enjoy work, and I'm lucky enough to do work that I love. So whether it's being on tour or making art or clothes or whatever, I actually really enjoy it. And, you know, the question is, obviously my experience with fame will be entirely different to, say, someone like Madonna, someone like David Bowie, who was famous in the 70s when fame was another level. You know, people like Bowie and Elton John and Mick Jagger, that's a different type of fame altogether. It's another level, it's almost like nebulous. And then you got someone like Prince, who was absolutely mysterious, you know, sounded like he was unbelievably difficult. And then you got me, who just, you know, I feel like, obviously I know I'm famous, but I've always been able to understand who I am outside of that as well. I always think to myself, I'm George O'Dowd from Elton, but I've created this person called Boy George. And I think the difference is I now have a lot of fun with it. Whereas when I was in my 30s or 40s, it was all a bit traumatic. And now I just really enjoy it, and yeah, I think I do it better.
So some of the pieces are they're connected to song lyrics or songs of yours, and then obviously sometimes you create the artwork first and then think, oh, that's a song in there. Which comes first?
Well, being a lyricist, I think words have a massive influence on everything I do. You know, I don't think we use enough words, particularly songwriters. People tend to stay in the sort of moon in June, you broke my heart stuff, which is why I love the Smiths, because, you know, Morrissey looks at love from a very peculiar angle. You know, heaven knows I'm miserable now. I mean, who else would write that but him, you know? And I think you're always trying to be the kind of artist that does something that is familiar, but it has its own twist. And I think that's the same whether it's a piece of art or a song. And very often if somebody might say a line, I thought, well, that sounds like a good intro to a song, and then that might influence a painting, or the other way around, they might do a painting and think, oh, I'm going to write a song about it, you know.
And we can see from the pieces, you use a lot of different materials. You know, sometimes it can be cardboard, it can be canvas, you know, beads. What makes you think, right, that's going to work?
Well, cardboard and glitter is
winning combo.
I have a song, I was there when you created yourself from cardboard and glitter. You tore out the pictures from the magazines, you said one day this will be me. And it's about the idea of reinvention, you know. Obviously, it's fascinating to be in art galleries, you know, because when I was a kid, art was something that was like over there. You can't do that, you know, you didn't go to art school and all of that. But I'm a typical Gemini. I don't read the manual. I just get in there, start pushing buttons and swirling things, and somehow I get what I need from it. So, you know, it's. I think it's just, for me, it's an instinct to create and to do the things I do.
And I mean, obviously, thank you so much for coming the night after you've just performed as well. But I mean, is it difficult for you to flip between the two, or is it just natural because it's all part of the creative process?
It's kind of normal for me to be like one day doing a DJ set, the next day being in Waitrose, and then the next day being, you know, in an art gallery. It's sort of, in a way, somebody said enough moments and you have a life. And I feel like all the different things I do just make life more fun and more interesting. And, you know, I still feel like there's so much to do, and I do a lot. I get told all the time I do too much. But then, you know, if you haven't got the thing, you can't do anything with it. So you definitely need to write and paint and create, and, you know, you just never know what's going to come out of those experiences.
So you've had an interesting history with Madonna, should we say? So I know a couple of the other shows we mentioned that she thought maybe missed, thought you were somebody else, and sort of, I don't know.
The story I think is that because I've read a few things. She met me in the early '80s, and she described me as wearing head to toe Vivienne Westwood squiggles, which was Pete Burns. 1000%. That's not how I dressed, because I was wearing all the Sue Klaus stuff that I was selling in my shop, and we were very adamant about our personal styling, and we were wearing all these clothes that Sue made, so I wasn't wearing Westwood. You know, I had some bits, but I wasn't wearing it head to toe. So it can only be Pete Burns that she met, God bless her. And she's held it against me. Having said that, I've been quite mean to her as well, so, you know. But I painted her now, so I've immortalised her.
Wasn't it yourself who said you don't have to like somebody to paint?
Well, I think, you know, people are interesting because they're interesting. They're not interesting because they agree with you or because you like them necessarily. It's just, some people have got great faces to paint. You know, they don't have to even be particularly pretty. I mean, she is pretty, but I don't think you have to be. It's just, and also my work isn't really about being detailed, and, you know, I'm trying to get the essence of the person, the attitude of the person, not necessarily a sort of another picture that looks like 100 other pictures.
So is that similar to the Prince piece? I know that's been really popular. So that came out of the sort of the jacket idea? I
did the face of Prince, not really planning to paint Prince, and then thought, oh, it looks a bit like Prince. And then I thought, well, if I put him in a Prince outfit, it would definitely be Prince. And so it kind of just, you know, it was a weird process. But once I got the purple suit on it, I was like, oh my God, it's him. And now it is him.
And it looks amazing. Yeah, I mean, I can only thank you enough. I mean, being up here and you having yourself here and all this art is absolutely stunning. So thank you.
Thanks for the lovely job that you guys have done.
I'll let you go and explore now. So we're gonna come around to a couple of people and say hi, and I'll give you a tour of the gallery.
Sure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Boy George, everybody.
Get Boy George.
Oh yeah. You get to see him. You get to meet him. Biden.